FNAF Midnight Motorist is home to some of the biggest mysteries of the entire franchise. The mound, the broken window, the runaway, the couch person, but none of them come close as being as mysterious as this. One single set of animatronic footprints by a bush. What animatronic truly made these? Well, I believe I've noticed something that I haven't seen anyone else talk about. But just a warning, this is one of the hardest theories I've ever looked into. Footprints in any sort of crime story or mystery always is the damning evidence. I can't tell you how many times I've watched a murder mystery where they track down the pattern of the person's shoe and bingo, they find the person who committed the crime. But in Midnight Motorist, we got a different kind of set of footprints. Not exactly from a person, but more so from what it looks like to be an animal. But obviously in FNAF, we all know that there are such things as animatronic animals. But what's so strange about these footprints is they seemingly just appear right there. They don't walk up to the window, and we don't see them actually turn around and head back into the bush. The window appears to be broken, and like MatPat has pointed out many times, there is not any glass on the outside of the window. So it's possible that either something or someone broke the window from the outside, adding even more mystery to what animatronic made these footprints. Now let's take in the scene here. Now personally, I believe we are playing as William Afton in this minigame. Go check out this video if you want to know more. And so by walking around the house as William Afton, we stumble across a very strange scene. Now, many people who played Midnight Motorist first enter the house and then speak with the couch person and then bang on the door and then walk around the house. But actually, if you do it backwards and walk around the house first, the scene is still there. So it's not like the runaway broke the window when he heard William Afton banging on the door. No, this has already been there since William Afton arrived and possibly for a while. Now, I do believe that there is a cap of time when we're talking about when the window was broken and when the footprints were made, mainly because of the fact that it is raining and there is a rain sound effect, which tells me it's raining decently, not maybe pouring down rain, but it's not light rain either. So I did some research, and typically footprints in soft mud erode away in medium rain within at least 2 hours. And so for the sake of this video, I'm going to be putting that cap on these footprints. We have at least an hour and a half of time between William Afton doing whatever he was doing and then getting home for these footprints being made. But let's take a look at these human footprints and figure out everything we can about them. For one, these human footprints can go either direction. They can be walking into the window or out of the window. Just take a look at it with me. If this very first footprint outside of this window was someone's right foot, as they swung their leg outside the window, it would make sense for the next footprint to be the left foot and so forth and so on up towards the top. But it also can work the other way. If you start at the top with it being the person's left foot, it would go left, right, and would eventually end on their left foot again, as if someone was climbing in, swinging their right leg into the window. So it really does work both ways. And one key element here is the window, which I believe MatPat has talked about, the fact that the glass is not on the outside of the window. Now, was this something that Scott had intended or not? I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe that Mustard Man, who I believe is William Afton, go check out this video if you want to learn more, I believe he makes it pretty clear to the fact that the person is leaving the window, not going into the window. So even though I think that the glass is a good piece of theory work, I don't think Scott thought about this. And we also learned that whoever is running out of this window in this house has done it before. As I was analyzing these footprints, something hit me. Is it possible we could try to figure out the age of the person who made them just by looking at the stride of the footprints? And actually, you can. I did a little bit of research and found that the average human stride is between 62 and 52 inches. That's roughly around 5 feet. For a child, it's much shorter than that, about 2 feet per step. However, when you play as William Afton, you can actually line up the footprint with William Afton's feet almost identical. If this was made by a young child, say around the age of 10, they would be much closer together. So I think that this helps us narrow down the age of the person who made these footprints, narrowing it down to either an older teenager or possibly an adult. Now that we've learned more about the human footprints and possibly that they were made by a teenager or an adult, let's jump over to the big mystery, the animatronic footprints. First of all, I must say these are very much in detail and help us narrow down the roster of animatronics that could have made them. Hear me out here. They are oval shaped with 3 toes. There's only a certain amount of animatronics where that characteristic carries over. And here they are. Spring Bonnie, Fredbear, Classic Freddy, Classic Bonnie, Withered Freddy, Withered Bonnie, Withered Foxy, Shadow Freddy, and Golden Freddy. Those are the characters that we have to now narrow down and figure out exactly who made them. Now obviously one of the biggest things that we can see here is the fact that there's simply 2 footprints. They don't lead up to the window and they don't turn around and walk away. And that has led many people to believe that this either belongs to Golden Freddy or possibly Shadow Freddy, simply because a poltergeist or ghost is able to manifest themselves and also have physical impact on the world without actually being there. So with that being said, Shadow Freddy and Golden Freddy made a lot of sense, and for a while I held to the fact of it being Golden Freddy. That just made sense to me. Another popular theory is the fact that these footprints are actually from William Afton's Spring Bonnie suit, and that this house belongs to an MCI victim's family. However, the only issue with this is we don't exactly know how long these footprints have been here, and like I was just mentioning before, it could have only been for at least an hour and a half, and most likely it had been raining that amount of time. And so if William Afton was wearing his Spring Bonnie suit, he surely would have died because of the rainwater. And so personally, with that being said, I don't believe that this works because it clearly contradicts with what we learned in FNAF 3. Remember, FNAF 6 is supposed to clear up things for the timeline, not make things more complicated, even though Midnight Motorist did that. As for Fredbear, I don't think that there is really any evidence to support the fact that it is Fredbear. I have seen a theory by John FNAF about the idea that Funtime Freddy used an illusion disc to make himself appear like Fredbear, appear at the crying child's window, and lure him off somewhere. The only issue I have with this theory is the fact that Funtime Freddy's feet do not look anything like this, and even if he was using an illusion disc, the physical effects that it has on the world would only match what it actually is. Now yes, I do believe that the illusion disc could make us think the footprints look like Fredbear's, but I don't think that's the case right here, simply because Funtime Freddy is nowhere to be seen. Now we come to Classic Freddy and Classic Bonnie. Now many of you are probably going to be saying, well, these wouldn't apply either, because there's just no evidence showing the fact that they were the ones who made these footprints. And also, just look at them, they don't go anywhere. Freddy and Bonnie, and also Withered Freddy and Withered Bonnie and Withered Foxy for that matter, all are just regular animatronics. They can't teleport, and so it wouldn't make sense for it to belong to any of these. Well, that's the theory that I'm going to be challenging today. Because even though I believed for a long time it was Golden Freddy, it just wasn't narratively satisfying enough, especially when Midnight Motorist and all of FNAF 6 was supposed to be helping us clarify things from past games. And that's when something hit me as I was staring at this 8-bit minigame. I imagined myself as the animatronic luring this person out of their window, and something suddenly hit me. The animatronic didn't need to teleport. It didn't need to walk forward. It could have walked backwards. That's right, there is a bush covering where possibly the rest of the footprints of this animatronic came from. In fact, if you imagine the placement of the animatronic's next stride, the next footprint would be directly hidden behind that bush. And if this animatronic was beckoning to someone as of "follow me," doesn't it just make a narratively satisfying sense for the animatronic to walk forward, make his appearance known, reach out his arm, and make the "follow me" gesture, and back up into the bush? When I thought of this, I was like, wait a second, this makes absolute sense. Instead of talking about how animatronics are appearing and not appearing, we now have more animatronics to work with, because now it could be Classic Freddy or Classic Bonnie. And so with that freedom, I decided to craft a theory that made narratively logical sense. And in order to do that, I went back and rewatched every single FNAF 8-bit minigame leading up to FNAF 6. Because it's obvious that Scott tries to give us more lore and information about FNAF through these minigames. And I thought to myself, is there something that connects Midnight Motorist to a past 8-bit minigame that helps this make sense? And that is when I made a discovery. After rewatching a bunch of 8-bit minigames, 2 of them stood out to me. Take Cake to Children and Save Them. Here are 2 instances where the animatronics are crying out for help 2 times. And that's when the puzzle pieces started to fall into place, because that's exactly what I was looking for to match up with Midnight Motorist, something that has reoccurred at least twice. William Afton here says, he ran off to that place again, he will be sorry when he gets back. Almost as if it's an annoyance to him that this has happened again, denoting the fact that it's at least happened 1 other time. Now, what year do I believe Midnight Motorist takes place in? I believe it takes place in the year of 1987, due to the fact of the dice having the numbers 8 and 7 in 5 Laps at Freddy's, also the fact that the first car that could go 200 miles an hour, like we have in Midnight Motorist, was made in 1987, and also in Security Breach, there is a purple car made out of daycare blocks parked next to a gas pump that pumps 87 octane. And so I wholeheartedly believe that this takes place in 1987, the same year, in fact, as the gameplay of FNAF 2. And also I believe that this minigame took place later the night of Charlie's murder, which I believe happened in 1987. But that's not the only thing that takes place in 1987. What about the DCI? Giving us 2 instances in 1987 where the animatronics are crying out for help. And Take Cake to Children, Freddy is spelling letters which eventually spell save him. We later know this was retconned for save her because Charlie ended up being a girl. In Save Them, the same thing happens. There are multiple dead bodies strewn about the pizzeria, and the animatronics are once again crying out for help in 1987. And so if one of the animatronics leaves and goes to the close by house of William Afton and lures help out of the house, William Afton would have known about it the first time, because someone found the body of Charlie and reported it. And so he would have been keeping a close eye on this occupant, and when it happened again, he got upset and was fed up like we see in FNAF Midnight Motorist, because he had just got done witnessing multiple murders of people at the Freddy's location, which was the DCI. Now, one of the biggest problems about the DCI that people have is, what was the point? What was William Afton trying to do? Well, by 1987, I believe that Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals was fully operational and functioning. I believe that Circus Baby's Pizza World tried opening during 1985, and so therefore by 1987, he had his whole operation in place and was running tests and experiments. I also want to say how I think it's interesting that the Funtime animatronics look extremely similar to the toy animatronics, and how they are painted like being killing machines in the FNAF 2 movie. Almost more reminiscent of the Funtimes as opposed to, the classics. And so what if William Afton was a part of building these animatronics and was installing strange things in them to make them want to attack people like we hear about during the gameplay of FNAF 2?
Just as a side note though, try to avoid eye contact with any of the animatronic side if you can. Someone may have tampered with their facial recognition systems, we're not sure. But the characters have been acting very unusual, almost aggressive towards the staff. They interact with the kids just fine, but when they encounter an adult, they just stare.
And he was using the toy animatronics at the location on this fateful night to murder more people to get remnant for his experiments. He then heads home and realizes that whomever the runaway is has ran off to that place again and will most likely report their findings. But he says they will be sorry when they get back. This to me feels very narratively satisfying and helps clear up more of the past FNAF timeline like FNAF 6 is supposed to. And so, who made the animatronic footprints? Well, for now, I'm going to say that it was Withered Freddy, mainly because that's the character that we play as and Save Them, and would have most likely been the animatronic to come and find help. But remember, there's other contenders on the table. It could be Classic Freddy, it could be Withered Bonnie, it could be Withered Foxy for all I care. But for now, that's the one that fits best with me at the moment. And so while this was a very hard theory for me to craft, I do believe it confirms a very famous saying, and it is this: nothing is always as it seems. This image, it just looks like the animatronic appeared there, But if you view it in just a little bit of a different light, we find that there are more options. The animatronic simply walked out of the bush and then walked backwards, beckoning to the person through the window to follow them. And if you want to hear a crazy theory about possibly who the runaway could be, check out this video right here. It's absolutely insane. And so with that, I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Make sure to leave your theories and comments about this theory down below. Remember to be respectful, and I will see you next time. Have a fantastic day.